Hello, dear friend. I greet you on the channel of Male Psychology. What do women desire? The inner essence of female inconsistency. In one recent film there was a demonstration scene where a man asks his girlfriend about what women want. And she reveals to him a terrible secret, which, in her words, in no case cannot be divulged. Leaning towards him, she confides in a whisper, "We have no idea what we want." This, of course, is not entirely true. Women are fully aware of what they want. If you ask questions correctly, then it is easy to extract to the surface the set of requirements and wishes that a woman would like to present to a man. But in every joke there is a joke. For all the transparency and obviousness of women's desires, behind them lies a deeper and more complex motivation in which a rare woman is aware. But, before proceeding, I must make a small reservation. The article "Why a Man's Family?" spread on the internet and caused a lot of discussions. Several times I saw the opinions of men that the article is written by a frenzied feminist who hates men. But women like this article. This is because it is always more pleasant to discuss the shortcomings of another person. This article is about women, and written for women. But I realize that much more it will interest men, and some women will cause a sharp rejection. Well, there's nothing to be done. But nevertheless, dear women, I hope for your interest and sobriety of your perception. The article considers the general case of a woman with a violation of self-esteem, and the terms pride and insignificance do not carry emotional coloring. So, if I at once cover the entire list of women's want, then it's easy to notice their inconsistency. Remembering the article about husbands and lovers, we can say that a woman expects from a man the simultaneous manifestation of both models of behavior, which, by definition, is impossible. No living man can cover the entire list of female demands. At its best, only half of it. But neither men nor women realize this. Every woman is looking for a magical prince who will embody all the features and qualities she needs. And men, not understanding what is happening, break themselves in favor of a woman or rebel against the demands to change. But the outcome is always the same, a relationship that, perhaps, began as a fairy tale and a gift of fate, are destroyed. A woman does not understand her own inconsistency and cannot give up her desires. She would rather blame her man for not loving her enough to change. But even if a man indulges her desires, then this does not suit her. The subordinated man to the woman is no longer needed, and then a new round of accusations begins, now in weakness. So long as relations do not scatter to shreds. The theme of female inconsistency deserves all those books that are written about it. The secret of the female soul is an eternal question for both halves of mankind. Let's try to figure out what's going on here. The origin of women's requirements. For centuries, marriage for a woman was quite a pragmatic step. Giving herself to the man, the woman shifted responsibility for his survival and well-being to him. This was considered the norm and consistently cultivated from generation to generation. Parents themselves were looking for their daughters a successful, from their point of view, party. After all, if the son could get on his feet and provide for the old age of his parents, then there was nothing like waiting for the daughters. In social life, a woman for a long time had only subordinate value. Therefore, parents tried to give their daughter as soon as possible in marriage with the maximum benefit for themselves. Thus, they took care of her from their shoulders, and with due luck, they used her female attractiveness with pleasure, as a chance to get along with a richer and more influential family. From the point of view of the woman herself, in this situation there was nothing humiliating. Marriage was a transaction in which a woman received material and social benefits in return for the right to own herself. Love, respect and affection could participate in this, but they were never an obligatory attribute. But with the advent of new times, when the relationship between a man and a woman began to rely more and more on the principle of mutual pleasure, and a woman acquired and confirmed the right to complete her social independence, the institution of marriage turned out to be an interesting situation. The criterion for choosing a marriage partner was love, an ephemeral complex of emotional experiences, which is now placed above all reasonable arguments. And although no one really has a clue about what this love is, it is so important that relationships without love already seem unthinkable. A marriage of convenience, which has always been a normal and natural phenomenon, is now condemned as mercantile and insensitive. Men and women play relationships and believe that big and bright love is the main reason for getting married. And the men in this era are even more sincere, because under the guise of innocence in the female subcourt there is an ancient motif: a man is a means of solving all problems. This thought can be conscious or depressed, but, in any case, to a woman it seems quite natural. And why do you need a man? An ancient marriage of convenience was a much more honest enterprise than the current love marriages, which the entire calculation is hidden under the screen of emotional affection. Darling, do you love me? Well, then you owe me. This is the inner essence of modern marriage from a woman's position. Many factors are involved in the formation of this point of view, but, mainly, this is a question of upbringing. From mother to daughter, from generation to generation, this principle of using men for their own purposes is passed on to every woman. However, not everything here depends on the parents, because the power of social pressure is already large enough to bring the virus of female conceit into the emerging psyche. TV series, reality shows, authoritative glossy magazines and other means of social suggestion from a small age teach girls how to attract a man, how to attach to him and how to use it later. Coquetry is a martial art for manipulating men, which is part of the compulsory female education program. In addition, every girl, so that she did not shrink from maintaining the general conspiracy, is instigated by the destructive thought that the inability to attract and marry a man is a sign of her poor quality. And it ends with the fact that a woman's self-esteem becomes completely dependent on her attractiveness for men. Pay attention, this is extremely important. Here we smoothly pass into the plane of the psychological needs of women, the responsibility for the implementation of which, she also shifts to a man. Now, to all else, he must behave in such a way that a woman ceases to feel her inferiority. And if he does not, he is to blame. This is the stumbling block that most families destroy. A woman tries to get out of the state of internal conflict at the expense of a man. But since he cannot play contradictory roles, a woman, sooner or later, feels that a man is missing something for her. She herself does not fully understand what exactly she needs, but this does not prevent her from blaming a man for poor quality and demanding a solution from a fairy tale problem from him. Go there, I do not know where, bring that, I do not know what. And yet, the responsibility for creating this problem and for its solution lies solely with the woman. A man, at best, can help her to realize what is happening. Female pendulum of pride and insignificance. We have already talked about the problem of pride and insignificance in an article on the structure of social relations. I hope you read it, otherwise, some turns of the subsequent narrative may seem incomprehensible to you. Self-esteem in men and women is more or less the same. Both those and others are talking about two poles, which require their strengthening. Pride is won back through active interaction with the outside world, in comparison with other people, in the struggle for power, in victories over rivals. A knot or self-pity feeds on inner experiences, through mutual emotional support or self-consolation. Everyone wants victories in the social sphere and unconditional acceptance in the sphere of the soul. And the difference between men and women only in what means to achieve inner peace go into the course. Men, in this sense, are more self-sufficient. They can cope with internal conflicts on their own, for example, through careers, hobbies and male friendships. The woman, on the other hand, is in a state of dependence. In order to calm internal anxiety, she needs relationships with men. Without men, a woman cannot overcome her own inferiority. Probably, such female dependence is not an inborn predetermination, but refers to the results of social conditioning. But the depth and energy charge of this program are so great that on the scale of its manifestations it is quite comparable with psychological instincts. The chance to go beyond the program is, but this way is thorny and dangerous. And as long as a woman follows this imperative inherent in her, she will conduct a game with men in two opposite directions, which create the external effect of the contradictoriness and incomprehensibility of her desires. Women's pride. This side of the game makes a woman choose a man who will give her a certain status. A man must be a winner, a leader, a typical lover. When a woman manages to attract such a man to herself, she gets confirmation of her own importance and calms down for a while. The main means of attracting cool men is sexuality. The woman challenges men, offering to fight for her favor, and then peacefully given to the winner. But even then, the woman continues to test the man for strength, provoking him to show strength, a kind of test for proficiency. If a man is stronger, the test is passed. If not, it's time to look for a replacement. There is a downside here. However, that a woman wants to see a strong man next to her and be defeated by her, she herself wants to defeat him. Choosing the coolest among others, a man, and getting his attention, a woman, soon, begins to subordinate him to himself. In fact, a woman seeks to completely and solely take possession of a man, his attention, his time, his actions, his desires, his soul. Hence, many family conflicts occur when a wife requires her husband to give up friends for her, advance in a career for the sake of fulfilling her desires, share her values, accept her in her world, and so on. Using the terminology from the article about male models of behavior, a woman tries to love her to requalify as a husband. A man can succumb to this pressure or not, but if a woman does not realize her game, the relationship will in any case be destroyed. If a man refuses to obey, a woman will feel that she is not loved enough and do not appreciate, will fall into a feeling of self-pity and will look for that man who will accept and love her. If a man obeys her will, the woman will feel stronger, and therefore loosen it the support for his pride. And now she will have to look again for the tough guy who will amuse her attention with her pride. In both cases, the problem of pride proves to be allowed only for a short time, when the woman still retains the hope that she will manage to remake the man, or until she is faced with the fact that the converted and defeated man no longer attracts her. But even in this short space, a woman does not feel happy, because the satisfaction of pride is only one of the poles of the pendulum of self-esteem. The end of the first part. Subscribe to the channel and be happy.